Hello students. Today's live lesson will cover selected important topics from Lesson 8. I think this video is of particular importance as the learning objectives are focused mostly within the online presentation than the textbook. The learning objectives of each lesson are a useful tool to ensure comprehension of key concepts. First, let's briefly review the learning objectives of Lesson 8. After completing this lesson, you should be able to describe the responsibilities of a financial manager, differentiate between operating expenditures and capital expenditures, identify sources of short-term funds, identify sources of long-term funds, and identify different approaches to risk management. This video will specifically cover short and long-term funds, as well as the differences between operating expenses and capital expenditures. I have included a slide correlating the lesson material with the textbook. It is important to note that this lesson is the final lesson, which means some of the material is cumulative. This lesson builds upon the knowledge we gained from previous lessons. I hope this quick reference for some topics may be of use for your review. Our first main topic will be to differentiate operating or short-term expenses and capital or long-term expenditures. I've structured this live lesson slightly different than the online presentation, as I will define the short-term expenses and then describe the sources. Likewise, I will then separately define the long-term expenditures and then describe the sources. Short-term or operating expenses include accounts payable, accounts receivable, inventories, and working capital. Accounts payable are unpaid bills, plus wages and taxes due within the upcoming year. Accounts receivable are funds due from customers who have bought on credit. Inventories are materials and goods held by a company but that will be sold within the year. Working capital is the current liquid assets out of which a firm can pay current debts. Sources of short-term expenses include trade credit, secured loans, unsecured loans, and factoring accounts receivable. Trade credit is when a company buys products or supplies on credit from its suppliers and postpones payment. There are 3 types of trade credit. Open book credit is a form of trade credit in which sellers ship merchandise on faith that payment will be forthcoming. A promissory note is a form of trade credit in which buyers sign promises to pay agreements before merchandise is shipped. A trade draft is a form of trade credit in which buyers must sign statements of payment terms attached to merchandise by sellers. Now we will differentiate between secured and unsecured loans. Secured loans are those that are backed by some specific valuable item or items known as collateral, which may be seized by the lender should the borrower fail to repay the loan. Borrowers might use their inventory or accounts receivable as collateral. An unsecured loan may be arranged through a line of credit, a revolving credit agreement, or commercial paper. A line of credit is a standing arrangement in which a lender agrees to make available a specific amount of funds upon the borrower's request. A revolving line of credit is an arrangement in which the lender agrees to make funds available on demand and on a continuing basis. Commercial paper is a short-term security or note containing a borrower's promise to pay. This matures in 270 days or less. This video explains the difference between secured and unsecured loans from a more personal perspective. Personal finance acumen is an important key to success, which is why I'm including a resource that may be applicable to most individuals. Firms need to finance expenditures on fixed assets with long-term funding. Here is a short video related to long-term debt and relating that material to things we have covered in Chapter 15. I think it helps connect the two chapters, 15 and 16, well. The three types of long-term expenditures, or capital expenditures, are debt, equity, and hybrid financing. Debt financing is used to cover long-term expenses, such as assets. These will generally be repaid in more than 1 year. Long-term loans are typically issued by a commercial bank. Corporate bonds are another form of long-term loan in which the terms of a bond, such as the amount to be paid, the interest rate, and the maturity date, differ from company to company and from issue to issue. Equity financing is the use of common stock and/or retained earnings to increase long-term funding. Common stock is selling ownership in the company by way of selling stocks to raise money. Retained earnings is reinvesting profits in the company rather than issuing a dividend. Preferred stock is called hybrid because it has some of the features of both corporate bonds and common stocks. It provides a fixed dividend, is paid dividends before common stock, and has no voting rights. I have created a small Check Your Understanding section similar to the online presentations to help you verify your comprehension of this live lesson. You can review the answers on the next slide. Thank you for watching today's video. Please reach out to me via the chat room or email if you have questions. Have a really great day.